Okay, so let's, as we usually do, just start by arriving, sort of bringing the attention from wherever it is now to the gates of the senses, what we can see, what we can hear, what we can smell, any residual tastes, and the big one, the totality of felt, somatic, bodily sensations in this posture here and now, moment by moment. Pick up the rhythm of the sensations of the breath in the body. As we're doing that, just check out the mental consciousness, whatever's there. Back to the breath. Then just let go of the breath. Rest in single-pointed, undistracted, mindful awareness, choiceless. And as much as possible, allow our mind and body to settle into the natural state. And we'll start by motivating ourselves with the daily prayers and recitation of the Heart Sutra. So if we go to the beginning of the prayers, and then we'll come through to the Heart Sutra, that's great. Okay. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being. Perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings. To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being. Perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world. Supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings. To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being. Perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings. To you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you, who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies, forms supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds. Winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, colour like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms' atoms, in all aspects. With supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. The recitation of the Heart Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on Masavulja's mountain, in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. No visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There's no I element, and so on up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared: Tayata gate gate paragate parasangate bodhi soha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Then we'll offer a prayer to Simhamukha, the lion-faced Dakini. I prostrate to the gathering of Dakinis in the three chakras, who abide in the holy yoga of using space. By your powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, look after practitioners like a mother her child. Aka, Samara, Sashadara, Samara Yape. Aka, Samara, Sashadara, Samara Yape, Tayata, Gati, Gati, Paragate, Parasangate, Bodhi, Soha. By the teachings of the three supreme jewels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer hindrances be transformed. May they be dispelled. May they be pacified. Shintim Kuru Yesoha. May all negative forces opposed to the Dharma be completely pacified. May the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified. May we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be in accord with the Dharma, and may there be auspiciousness and perfect happiness here, right now. Then to the foundation of all good qualities, it's a kind of glance meditation on the main points of the Lam Rim, the graduated path. The foundation of all good qualities is the kind and perfect pure Guru. Correct devotion to him or her is the root of the path. By clearly seeing this and applying great effort, please bless me to rely on him or her with great respect. Understanding that the precious freedom of this rebirth is found only once is greatly meaningful and difficult to find again. Please bless me to generate the mind that unceasingly day and night takes its essence. This life is impermanent as a water bubble. Remember how quickly it decays and death comes. After death, just like a shadow follows the body, the results of black and white karma follow. Finding firm and definite conviction in this, please bless me always to be careful, to abandon even the slightest negativities, and accomplish all virtuous deeds. Seeking samsaric pleasures is the door to all suffering. They are uncertain and cannot be relied upon. Recognizing these shortcomings, please bless me to generate the strong wish for the bliss of liberation. Led by this pure thought, mindfulness, alertness, and great caution arise. The root teaching is keeping the pratimoksha vows. Please bless me to accomplish this essential practice. Just as I have fallen into the sea of samsara, so have all mother migratory beings. Please bless me to see this, train in supreme bodhicitta, and bear the responsibility of freeing migratory beings. Even if I develop only bodhicitta but don't practice the three types of morality, I will not achieve enlightenment. With my clear recognition of this, please bless me to practice the bodhisattva vows with great energy. Once I have pacified distractions to wrong objects and correctly analyzed the meaning of reality, please bless me to generate quickly within my mind stream the unified path of calm abiding and special insight. Having become a pure vessel by training in the general path, please bless me to enter the holy gateway of the fortunate ones, the supreme Vajra vehicle. At that time, the basis of accomplishing the two attainments is keeping pure vows and samaya. As I have become firmly convinced of this, please bless me to protect these vows and pledges like my life. Then, having realized the importance of the two stages, the essence of the Vajrayana, by practicing with great energy, never giving up the 4 sessions, please bless me to realize the teachings of the Holy Guru. Like that, may the Gurus who show the noble path and the spiritual friends who practice it have long lives. Please bless me to pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. In all my lives, never separated from perfect Gurus, may I enjoy the magnificent Dharma. By completing the qualities of the stages and paths, may I quickly attain the state of Vajradhara. I'll make a short mandala offering. Sajipui Zhug Ching Meto Tramri Ramli da jing la chopa jo. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this as a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kanyatayamni. Sangye Chodang Soki Chonam La Jangchu Badu Dakni Kyapsu Shi Dage Chunyen Gipe Sonam Gi Drola Panchia Sangye Drupa Ju. Sangye Chodang Soki Chonam La Jangchu Badu Dakni Kyapsu Shi Dage Chunyen Gipe Sonam Gi Drola Panchia Sangye Drupa Jo. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened, to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Thank you. In that spirit, let's engage with the third day of our retreat. Okay, so we started to work on the 4 steps in the meditation. The first one being really trying to get some direct reference and experiential feel for the reified I, the one that arises, comes up, and appears to us to exist in a way that it actually doesn't. And having kind of identified that one, then sort of move to the second step of there's a logical step with a little bit of experiential pointing, if you like. The logical step being, well, either it's the same as itself or something different. And given that the I always arises, as we noted from the 5th Dalai Lama's quotation, in the context of mind and body, or mind and body together, however we want to carve it up. We were looking at and reflected on the fact that either that which we refer to as I, that one that appears in that way to us, is in some way the same as mind and body, or something different from it. We also extended out a bit to look at other objects and say, well, the gong, the computer, the table, the cushion, the book, whatever it is, that it's either the same as this or something different. And that's where we kind of got to. Any reflections, thoughts, comments, or clarifications so far before we move on with the third step? Tony, yeah.
Hi, good morning, Roy. I spent, the rest of yesterday trying to identify the I, the sense of self, and I really struggled with that. It seemed to be a sort of nebulous conglomeration of all my past experiences and the present inputs, from senses. It's a little bit intangible in a way. But yes, I do think my sort of physical sense of it is definitely sort of somewhere head region. I guess it's ingrained that the sum of all those experiences, the reaction, the conditioning, is all in the brain somehow. Well, not the whole. It's a whole body thing, really. So I'm not sure I've quite got there in terms of saying it's definitely got some grounding to it, which is identifiable. That's what I'm saying. It's identifiable as the sum total of experiences, past and present inputs, sort of thing. Yeah, that's as far as I can go, really.
Yeah, it's a good observation, because already all of the things you cited are, of course, all the kind of causes and conditions on which the sense of I arises, and then it's intangible because, of course, it arises in different parts, in different ways, for different reasons at different times. So you then kind of think, as an observation, yeah, it's dependent on this kind of conglomeration of causes and conditions that can be summed up in terms of my past and present experience. Not quite as solid as I thought it was, because it's kind of a little intangible, you know, it's elusive. So already there's some insight into the nature of the self, as opposed to the more kind of habitual or standard intellectual answer, which might speak of it or talk to others about it as if it was something singular, permanent, partless, always there, not dependent on anything else, kind of sufficient, self-sufficient from its own side. So I think that's already, you know, in a good place with it. I think from the point of view of the meditation, to kind of refine or hone the target a bit, is see if you can go back to the time where that sense, or generate one now, as it were, where it's particularly strong. I think that that's the reason in the traditional instructions they're saying sort of recall or regenerate or connect with a time when that one was really strong. Because when it is really strong, there's no doubt about it. You know, like now we're in very reflective mode, we're on retreat. Hopefully, you know, we're reasonably relaxed. But, you know, if we think back to the traditional analogy of being accused of something you haven't done, if that was not just, you know, in an easy situation, maybe it could occur when you were at work. And if what the other person had said was true, you might lose your job. And there may be other people listening to what the person said. Then there's a really strong kind of, how dare you? You know, it really is very strong. And there's no doubt at that moment that this one is really, really solid, really, really concrete, really, really strong, you know, and anger can come out of that sort of foundation, and it becomes even stronger. And then at that time, if someone were to suggest, you know, hang on, this is sometimes it happens, and people say, oh, don't get so overwrought, you know, it's not what you think it is. We're like, yes, it is, you know, it's like, that's the one that's there lurking, if you like, and it kind of lurks, comes out when the I arises in the context of powerful emotions, positive or negative. But there's also the kind of background assumption of when we talk of ourselves generally. So I think already your, you know, honest search finds, it's nebulous, it's intangible, it's somehow tied up with all of the causes and conditions of my past and present experience, you know, including environmental ones. So it's more changeable, it's less tangible, it's less concrete. Sometimes I can be very sure, other times not quite sure. Sometimes when we just go about our daily business, we're not even thinking about it, and we don't have a particularly strong sense of I. So I think, yeah, that's a really good insight to kick us off.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you used to bring up that particular example of trying to connect with the strong sense of I, because I've actually had that experience about 20 years ago, where I was falsely accused of a grotesque crime, actually. I will tell you, as we're in a retreat environment. So I was married, I had 2 children, 2 and 5, and my wife I'd wanted a divorce, and she then, when she found that child contact was sort of had to carry on, because that's the law, she basically went to the police and said she suspected me of sexually abusing our 2-year-old daughter. So I've actually faced that very experience. And that then involved, obviously, huge emotional and difficult circumstances, 3 years of court proceedings. So I've definitely had that trauma. I tried to bring a little bit of that to mind, and certainly I was angry at the time. But interestingly enough, that extreme experience you know, and I haven't seen my children actually, although the court eventually ruled in my favor, but actually haven't seen them for 18 years. I've somehow, that trauma has enabled me, I think, to somehow detach myself from that very strong sense of I. That doesn't mean I don't respond and do the things I have to do in the world. It's not like that, but somehow everything seems a little bit more, I don't know. I'm just detached. Detached is probably the best way I can feel about it. So maybe, yeah, maybe that's why I'm struggling to sort of home in on that. I don't tend to react angry. I don't tend to get any of those very strong emotions anymore. I think, you know, I've done a lot of work on myself since that major trauma, really.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it all feels a bit nebulous. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nebulous anyway. It depends on the circumstances, the time, and, you know, back to the fifth Dalai Lama again, you know, sometimes it arises as a result of this, or sometimes that, sometimes more in the context of the mind, sometimes in the body, sometimes in terms of a combination of the two. And we'll all be able to remember quite powerful occasions where perhaps we've been accused of something that we didn't do. And of course, it leaves its mark. And that's not to say there's, exactly as you've kind of highlighted there, there's one. I think experiences like that, if we're reflective, do cause us to start doing work on ourselves, particularly if we're people that are interested in developing on a spiritual path. And also there's another one, that if that very, very strong and concrete manifestation of the reified I is extremely strong, associated with a lot of negative emotions and extremely painful, then I think we develop a kind of a numbness around it. And if we're looking to do work on ourselves or following a spiritual path, then exactly as you said, you start to work with the fallout from that. Some people don't. They just retreat into a complete numbness. It's very difficult for them to engage, and so on and so forth. So it's a good thing to share, and it's a good thing to relate to what we're looking for with this reified I. Yeah. So it's not just, oh, I'm only looking for the instances where it arises in either very powerful positive or negative experiences. It's a way of getting an experiential grip on it. You know, it's like you might be looking for mountains in the fog. Well, if you see the tips, you know, the high points, then as the fog eases, you can start to see the rest. So it's like that. You relate to those sort of experiences and then come back. I mean, as I'm talking, I'm thinking, well, where is it now for me? Where's that kind of very solid, unchanging sense of self that thinks it's permanent, partless, not dependent on anything else, you know, completely in control and all of that. So I think that's the way to work with it. That's the way to, and your observation of it as being intangible, dependent on all those factors, and sometimes more visible and sometimes not, and sometimes because of past experiences surrounded by numbnesses or sort of, oh, I don't want to go there now or whatever. That's that. Then you're experientially right on the mark in terms of saying that's the one, if you like, then you're starting to apply the analysis to. So when it comes up, it always appears to come up in the context of mind and body. So is it the same as the mind and body? You know, there's clearly a dependency there, but is it the same or something else altogether, not dependent on any of these things? So that's where we are on the second step. So thank you for that. And is there anybody else got any thoughts or need any clarity around that one. Hi, Stuart.
Hello, Roy. I was just going to say that yes, I too can, locate my I in memory, and I think probably, I don't know, as you get older, well, certainly in my case anyway, I can only speak for myself. It's certainly got stronger, and I have no difficulty at all in locating my I. It comes to me almost daily. So that's an interesting point. But when you were talking yesterday about how we perceive the I and misapprehensions about the what came to my mind was the fact that I have never seen my face, and nobody else has ever seen their face either. No human being has ever seen their face. But if you ask me where am I on this screen, I would point to a picture of what I think my face is. But all I've got, the only evidence I've got for it is actually what other people tell me about it.
Yeah.
And I just think that's a sort of illustration of how we can misapprehend the I, because no idea whether it's true or not. Anyway, that's my...
No, as you say, it depends largely on what other people say, and we can rely on photographs and images in mirrors.
Yeah.
But your observation is really correct, and there is, if you're interested in that, there's a very, very good, not long, and quite amazing book. I don't know whether you've ever come across it, by a man called Douglas Harding, and it's called On Having No Head. Right. And he was actually a student of Buddhism and got particularly interested in Zen Buddhism. But his awakening in that sense was inspired by the fact that, he traveled and did some sketching on one thing and another. And then he had exactly this realization that I can see everything, but I can't see my own face. I can't really see my own head, except for maybe a bit of nose or whatever else. And it works out from there. So he had what was an experience of headlessness, which of course, experience of selflessness, it led to an insight into selflessness. And he got some exercises together to try and see if other people could have similar experiences. Anyway, the book's called On Having No Head. He's by Douglas Harding. He's now dead. And you can find copies. They're not terribly expensive. If it's within the context of the retreat, I've got a PDF copy which I could send you. But
that would be brilliant.
You would have to accept it on the basis that I don't know whether we're in breach of copyright or not.
Of course, and it's an educational context.
Yeah. So if you want to leave me your email address in the chat,
okay,
I'll send you a copy. But yeah, if you've had that insight yourself, I think you'd really enjoy this one.
Okay, wonderful, Roy. Thank you. I mean, it's sort of, I'm not going to take up any more time, but it's the what face did you have before you were born, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll put my email in the chat.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Roy.
Yeah, and it's like that. Yes, the Zen koan, like that, it is like that, because if you think, well, all of this is a dependent arising, based on my mother and father and conditioning, upbringing, growth, age, and so on and so forth. So, there's something all the time, again, back to the question of awareness, which doesn't look like that, does it? Doesn't have any of those attributes. It's, again, that kind of empty, clear, lucid cognizance that pervades experience. And without, doing a spoiler. That's what the knowing your face or seeing your face before you were born is pointing at. Yeah. Anyway, yes, I'll send that through. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy.
Judy. Nori afterwards.
Sorry, it took me a long time to unmute.
No problem. It's good.
I just think that, this reified I is so strongly emphasized, isn't it, in our society?
Yes.
When we all the time we're brought up, we're told that we're individuals, that we're special, we're how can I put, everything is geared towards the reified I. I think it's probably because it helps make money for the economies, etc., etc. But of course, it's also solidifies that feeling of self-pity, which can be so destructive. So I just wanted to say that it's a great realization when one realizes that, we are reifying the I, and it goes against the stream of how our society works in a way.
Yes, no, I agree with you. There's and it's kind of, it's, I suppose you go back to Marshall McLuhan and Global Village, as this communications revolution and technological revolution kind of shrunk the world a bit. And then off the back of that, the internet and social media platforms, it's extremely heightened this sense of, oh, well, the way we all relate to one another and what we're all supposed to be doing is really, grooming, intensifying and articulating the reified I. And if you haven't got one, or it doesn't look quite right, then there's something wrong, and so on and so on and so on and so on. And, some people, react by becoming, super confident and feeling super strong and probably having ideas and feelings about themselves that far exceed what the reality is. And other people are driven into feelings of really low self-esteem and really low self-worth because they feel they can't match up, or they're inadequate in some way by comparing themselves to someone else. Yeah. And all of that, which of course is just, it's clinging again to another form of a reified I, but one that's sort of saying, oh, I'm no good, or, it's this, it's that. As soon as it's this way, I'm no good at that. I'm terrible at this. I shouldn't feel that. I don't have that. Or because this happened to me, this happened. Again, the assumption there is that there is something permanent, partless, unchanging, that is a thing that is just like that. And of course it's not. It's the reified I is a strange kind of fiction. Now there's a sense in which if you like, the basis of it, some kind of something that comes together, makes sense of our experience and enables us to learn and act, is a very useful function. But a bit like those optical illusions, if we then go that one step further and think it exists in a way that it doesn't, then from a spiritual point of view, and for many people from a psychological point of view, and from the point of view of generational suffering, it becomes a big problem. Because they're not seeing it for what it is and looking through it. It's not, it's in charge, it's not in service. A healthy ego can be a very useful thing. A healthy ego, seen for what it is not a problem. But if it's kind of unhealthy, unstable, unbalanced, and we believe that that's the way we exist, in just the way it appears, that from the point of view of avidya or ignorance in the Buddhist teachings is the root of all the problems, is the root of all suffering. Yeah, so it's an incredibly good insight and observation for me to see the way, and it also sort of moves on a bit from Stuart's one. This is an aspect of how the self is not only dependent on those things that arise in us, but is also dependent or interdependent on a social network. How other people see us, how other people react to us. It's rooted there too. So yeah, it's an astonishing insight. And also, as you say, sometimes I do feel terribly sorry where you see people are being invited to say, oh, you know, it's like, hi, here I am, it's me. And then they're being invited to reify and groom that kind of reified I in what you think, oh, there's going to be tears before bedtime if they go that way. You know, because there's the cultivation of a belief in something that doesn't really exist in the way it appears, and can actually become an obstacle to the realization of their real and full potential. You know, it's a great observation. Naori.
Hi.
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 I had a similar experience yesterday. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hear you good.
Okay. Because I couldn't really concentrate the last session because I think in the Zoom screen, I am pretty much like a 10-second to 20-second delay every movement I make. I'm kind of fascinated about it. I just couldn't concentrate. Just looking at it's really bizarre because this is supposed to be, but I am watching some TV program which is not related. You know, it's not mirror because it's not same time. It's always delayed over there.
Mm.
And then I just couldn't get rid of that kind of bizarreness or some kind of odd feeling. And then today I've been walking in the mountain and snowing in Japan here, and it's just kind of couldn't get rid of it. And then at the same time I have some kind of emotional things going on, and then we talked about the self, strong sense of myself. And then I just thought when I walk in the mountain, we have to aware about the wild bear, because it's around here.
Mm.
And then I kind of, because it was snowing, nobody walking in the mountain myself, and I started feeling fear about what if the bear attacked me, kind of thing. That is a strong sense of me. And then remember the Zoom screen, and I thought, hang on a minute, if I leave me, what I think about me, beside it, and then I look at my hand, and this is a hand. There is two hands, and then there is a tree in front of me. There is the bars, and I kind of, it's really difficult to describe, but I kind of understand. These are same. My hands, it's part of me, part of Naori. The leg, this is part of Naori. But if I leave the Naori here, these are part of something. I don't know, part of something. So it is, tree is part of something, but I really don't know what is that belonging or part of. But then I kind of experience this is the same. My body and my emotion is same as my hand, in a sense, same as tree. So those are a part of something, but I really don't know what. So I'm just kind of really frustrated about it. So if I leave what I think about me, I kind of take it out. So it is all the same things. Do you understand? I can't really explain very well in the words that
I
kind of
understand a little.
sense.
I'm getting there.
But it is the emotion thing as well. I can't really touch it, but that's something what I think about me is controlling emotion.
Yes.
But I'm not really sure what about me. There is no such thing as about me. So that means emotion and hands are same things for me.
Hmm.
Do you get it?
Yes, I do. I think so. I think so. We can try. It's also.
But I really don't understand what is getting it from here. It's really frustrated about it.
I think if you think, like when you were saying that you were going out up into the mountains for a walk, there's emotional things going on inside that you're sorting out or present to or whatever. And then there's the awareness kind of arises of being alone walking, and then knowing that doing that one has to be careful about the potential presence of a bear, and then fear arises. And then there's something in the thinking or reflecting on the meditative sessions earlier about looking at the hands. Where does that fit in? Are they the same as the emotions, and so on and so forth? And then you may have continued your walk, come down, and was it the same? At what point did the fear subside? At what point did the sense of frustration of not being, when did that dissipate and go away? Now you remember it. So again, that sense of self, almost the one we can't see, is arising and changing because it's dependent on all these different factors all the time, moment by moment. Is that making sense?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And I think there's also a sense of not being able, the sense of frustration of not being able to catch it is because we're we're trying to grasp something that doesn't really exist in that way. So it can't be grasped. We think it is, so we get frustrated because we can't. But in actual fact, that is one of the ways in which its appearance, by appearance in a way, it's kind of unfortunate language, and that's just the way English and maybe other languages are too. We're sort of dominated by sight. But of course, the appearance in this sense doesn't just mean how it looks, but in fact, less like how it looks. It's more about how it feels. What are the sensations? What are the emotions? What are the thoughts? What are all of the temperature, the environment, the whole thing, the experience of it. In that sense, the totality is the way it appears. It's dependent on all of those things and keeps changing over time, of course, because we're alive. And so if we think of it from the point of view of trying to say, I think this is also sometimes where it's a bit unhelpful when we look at the kind of academically translated technical text where it says, identify the object of negation, can lead you to believe that there is something there you could actually get a hold of, identify, and then whereas it's more like having insight into what this, when it is concrete, when it is reified, when it's very solidified. The fear, for example, will have produced something of that. When you think of the fear of the bear. I mean, I love the mountains. I love the mountains in winter. I can't anymore, but I used to do a lot of winter climbing. And fortunately, I'm still here. That'll probably let you know. They say there are a lot of old climbers, and there are a lot of bold climbers, but there are no old, bold climbers. But every now and again, you know, sometimes I would fall off. Unfortunately, survived. You know, I had 2 quite nasty accidents, and it was very, very interesting, of course, that when I first started to realize I was falling off, there was this unbelievable, you know, don't want to die. That's putting it far too mildly. That everything in you is just gripping. But once you've done one somersault in the air, it's gone. But you're still there. It's fascinating. It's like, oh. But before, 2 seconds before, it was so real, so intense. It was like, you think you would never depart that or lose it. But it just, there's a point, I think, at which somewhere you just go, you know, it's not possible to hang on anymore. Or the causes and conditions for believing it's worth hanging on go. And then there's a completely different sense that's not necessarily attached to a reified I at all. It's kind of given up. Yeah. So the fear, when you feel that fear of the bear, that's the very reified I, tied up with our, you know, it's arising on the basis of the almost the endocrine system, yeah, which is the basis of the flight and fight mode. And you're thinking, well, I'm probably not going to fight, but I need to be able to run. That kind of survival thing kicks in. And then it's very, very strong because there's something that needs defending. There's something that doesn't want to die. There's something that needs to stay alive. And then when that one arises, then for us, that's really, really strong. It's and then we don't feel it's dependent on all these other factors. It just is what it is, you know, single, permanent, partless, unchangeable. That's how it is in that moment for us. And yet, by reflecting, sometimes I find it useful to reflect on going back through experience. It's not even with, sometimes for me, with strong anger, but you know, I can have those things where maybe I want something or I don't want something, and that there'll come at a point where I say it's a don't want. You know, maybe I'm saying, oh no, you know, this is now going to occur and this is unbearable. I really don't want this, and that. But at that time, I'm not thinking, you know, Roy, within an hour's time, it'll be completely different. The circumstances will have changed. The person will have gone. You're allowed out, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? But at that time, it's like, no, it's frozen. It's never going to change. It's unbearable. Because there's this very strong, solid sense of I that is completely lacking in any appreciation or insight into its rather ephemeral, intangible, dependent nature. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, shall we have a look at the next step, where we are? So we looked at kind of limiting our choices, if you like, as the second step. And we've been trying to, in our formal analytical meditation, to kind of conclude that if our strong reified sense of I exists as it seems or appears to us, it must either be one with or separate from the mind and body. So that's sort of, from a logical point of view, that's two sides to that. There's, is it the same or is it different? So let's forget about different for the moment and think, let's kind of pursue and see if we can do a little analysis on it being the same, on oneness, you know, that the I and the mind and body, this sense of I. Let's see if we can explore whether it makes sense to say, well, of course it's one with mind and body. That's what I refer to when I say I. So we kind of make a meditation on that. It'll give you a guide as to how to proceed until the next step. So if you find a comfortable posture, bring the attention back from wherever it is now to the gates of the senses, what we can see, what we can hear, smell, any residual tastes, the totality of felt somatic bodily sensations here and now in this posture. Just see if we can rest there in a simple and uncomplicated, uncontrived way, present in the experience of the five senses, completely open to whatever is arising, abiding for a while, changing, transforming, disappearing back into the space of consciousness or awareness. Moment by moment, just gently bringing the attention back to the fresh immediacy of the five senses, still in body, speech and mind, with the senses vividly alive. Just rest there for a couple of moments. And see if you can broaden the scope of the attention to include mental consciousness. Just check out what's going on there. Any big background emotions, positive, negative or neutral. Commentary. Strings of dialogue, sort of conversations with oneself. Undercurrent thought and processing past, present, future. Memories, daydreams, reveries, whatever we find there, just check out. Don't interfere with it. Don't try to modify it or correct it. Just leaving everything as it is. Chasing after anything or becoming identified with anything. Drop down into the body, simplify the scope of the attention. Let everything else be going on as it is, but pay particular attention, bring some single-pointed, undistracted, mindful attention to the body. A myriad, interrelated, interdependent, interrelated patterns and waves of sensation depending on all sorts of causes and conditions in the environment and in the body itself. Posture. Pick up the rhythm of the sensations of the breath in the body. Limit the scope of the attention just to being present in the tide-like rhythm, the ebb and flow of the sensations of the breath in the body. Just rest there. Gently returning the attention if it's distracted by anything internal or external. To just rest in the fresh immediacy, moment by moment, of the rhythm of the sensations of the breath in the body. And then when you're ready, just let go of using the breath as an anchor for your attention, but leave everything else the same. Just rest in still, single-pointed, undistracted, mindful awareness, completely open, choiceless. To whatever arises in the field of our experience. Without not holding on too tightly, but trying not to depart from resting just there, in that some attentional stability, balance, relaxation, serenity. Right there with that, you can just gently start a train of thought. If what we were calling the reified I was the same as mind and body, then that would kind of mean that the mind and the body wouldn't really differ at all if it was an identity relation. If when we say I, if what we're referring to is exactly the same as the mind and body, identical with it, then the I and the mind and body wouldn't really differ at all. It's a way of exploring. Remember, what we're trying to do here is we kind of got an idea and some experience of what this reified I is. Now we're trying to look for it, trying to actually come up with it. Say, can we find anything that looks like this? Do we have one of these? So having kind of thought, we kind of apply that logic of saying, well, kind of must arise in the context of the mind-body complex. So is it the same or different? Must be one or the other. So if it's the same, there's one particular problem that comes up immediately, and that's to say, if they're one and the same, would it make any sense at all to even bother with asserting an I? I mean, if this is what we're referring to, why do we posit something else and call it an I? Nagarjuna was alive to this one in his fundamental wisdom of the middle way. He kind of phrased it, quoting him verbatim here. When it's taken that there is no self except the mind and body complex, then the mind-body complex itself would be the self. If so, your self is non-existent. So it's kind of reflecting, it's a good point, easy to be clear about, that if the mind and body complex are exactly the same, if the I and the mind and body complex are exactly the same, it would be impossible to make any sense of what we do all day, every day in our language, talking about my body, my head, my mind, etc. Or things like my body is getting stronger, or I'm not feeling very well. My body, my head, my mind, my body's getting stronger, my body's getting weaker. But if they're one and the same, who's the my referring to here? Is it just a convenience of language? If they were truly identical, there's not really an answer here, but just realizing there's a consequence of thinking that if we make the assumption that the I and the mind and body are the same, there's an unfortunate consequence that it makes it rather difficult to explain a lot of our language, which is cashed out in terms of I, me, and mine. There's also the issue that if the self and the mind and the body are one, then when the mind and body cease to exist, the self would also cease to exist. If they were really identical in that way. There's also a kind of a thought that we can talk about our bodies and we can talk about our minds. And although they might not be two entirely separate things, they're different modalities. What you can say about the mind, not quite the same as what you can say about the body. And it's quite a useful distinction to be able to have. But if we were thinking, well, maybe the I just refers to the mind-body complex, but if mind and body are plural, if they're not singular, then ourselves would also have to be manifold or plural. So again, that's a kind of a consequence that challenges the assertion of the identity relation. Chandrakirti picked this one up, saying if mind and body were the self, because the mind and body are plural, the selves would also just be plural. Or just as the self is one, mind and body would also be one. Also, if this were true, just as the mind and body are produced and then disintegrate, what we refer to with the I would also have to be inherently produced and inherently disintegrate. So there's three quite significant consequences that follow if we accept or want to kind of assert or say that what the I refers to is the same as mind and body. You know, this very strong reified I, if it were one and the same, identical with mind and body, these are the kind of consequences for it. So, or consequences that would follow from it. So it's not quite so easy just to say, oh, well, it's the same. You know, it's identical with mind and body. Just reflect on that for yourselves a bit. Begin to see that just those three that we've mentioned, you may think of others, make it rather difficult to, in an unproblematic way, say, oh, yeah, this very strong sense of I or self is just the same as mind and body. Doesn't appear to be the case. Just rest there with that line of thought for a moment. There's some words from His Holiness's text which I can read to kind of support a bit the reflection. Remember, what is inherently established cannot be included within the same continuum, but must be unrelatedly different. Understanding this depends on getting an accurate sense of how the I and other phenomena usually appear to you to be self-instituting, and how you usually accept that appearance, and then act on the basis of it. This is the kind of exaggerated existence we're investigating. Then just let go, stop analysing, come back to either the breath in the body as an anchor, or the simple, single-pointed, undistracted, open, choiceless awareness, and just rest there without any further thought at all, and just be with whatever experience you have. And when you hear the gong strike, just let go completely. Don't meditate or not meditate, just relax and rest with whatever experience you have. So if between now and the next session, where we might do a bit more work on it, just keep, whether you're in formal session or having lunch or whatever, see if you can keep maybe just glancing, not kind of obsessing on it, but just every now and again thinking about, well, okay, if this kind of very strong sense, what we're calling the reified I, is really just the same as mind and body, there are kind of problems, sort of consequences we might not want to accept if that view is true. So just, gently turn that over, and if you can, kind of keep it as a thread for kind of looking into, if we're looking at, is it the same or is it different? What are the problems if we start to regard it as just being synonymous with or same as mind and body? There was another thought I had, Stuart, but let me know. I could, because I have the file in my own database, I could just put it up here in the chat, but do you know how to save it if I do that, or is it better if I send it directly?
I do know how to save it. Yeah, I could download it.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put it up. It also means anybody else can download it if they want it. But I'd be grateful if you'd respect the fact that I don't know whether this is in breach of copyright or not. So if we regard it as something confidential between us in the retreat.
Yeah.
But I don't know if are all of you familiar with the fact that you can download documents from the chat. But of course, once the meeting is finished, it'll disappear. So you either do it now or not at all. Let me see if I can get it up there in a message to everybody. So I want a message to everyone. Oh, I have to do it to Faye, don't I? I can't do it to everyone.
Yeah, if you pass it on to me, then I'll post it to everyone. If you
Okay.
No, you can. You should be able to do it to everyone.
Oh, really? When I do it, when I do the click saying, "Oh, I'll type to everyone," I seem to only have the choice of Faye or Director at Land of Joy.
All right. Well, if you pass it to me, I'll pass it on.
Okay. So here it comes. Hopefully. Documents, that's it.
Nothing so far?
No.
Oh, that's it. Got it. Thank you.
Nothing should have come yet.
Got something from Monica. It's okay. Sorry.
Okay. Nothing should have come from me yet.
No, not you.
I've got a problem here a moment. Just 1 minute. It might be. Just bear with me a minute. No, I'm not going to do it that way. What I'll do is I'll sort it out and do it in the next session. Because, well, fortunately, in one sense, Apple recently updated me to their new operating system. Unfortunately, they seem to have decided to reorganize my files. So I can't find things as quickly as I could before the update. So what I'll do is I'll sort it out over lunch and bring it back to you this afternoon. So I'll make a note to myself.
Thanks very much, Rob.
But I'll bring it back and then you can have it, anybody else who's interested in it, because it's a fascinating insight and piece of work. Okay, shall we have the dedication prayers, the short ones? Chang Chub Sem Chorin Poshe Ma Kir Panam Kir Gujing Kir Wanyam Pa Me Pa Yang Gong Ne Gong Lu Pelwa Shu Tony Tawa Rinpoche Ma Kir Panam Kir Gujing Kirpa Nyampa Mepa Yang Gongne Gonglu Pelwa Zhu. May the precious supreme bodhicitta not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. May the precious view of emptiness not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Thank you very much. Enjoy and much look forward to seeing you back at 3 o'clock. Thank you.